There is a kind of peace that looks calm on the outside, but feels like a silent war within. You smile at the dinner table. You nod during meetings. You answer, "I'm fine," before even thinking. But somewhere deep inside, your chest tightens for no apparent reason. You wake up with a heavy heart. You go to sleep with a mind that won't quiet down. And still, you keep doing it. You keep pretending. You keep choosing peace. But what kind of peace is this? A peace that demands you to stay silent when your truth wants to scream. A peace that forces you to swallow emotions like they are poison you must hide. A peace that costs you parts of yourself every single day. If you were honest for just 1 second, you would admit that it is not peace. It is paralysis. Most people live like this. They believe that avoiding conflict is maturity, that not upsetting others is kindness, that keeping things together, even when they are falling apart inside, is strength. And perhaps it is, for a while, but beneath that strength grows something else. Resentment, emptiness, a sense of betrayal. Not betrayal from others, but betrayal of the self. You say yes when you want to say no. You laugh when your heart is breaking. You forgive when you haven't even grieved. All of this just to keep things smooth, to avoid being too much, to not disturb the delicate balance around you. And every time you do, a part of you goes quiet. A part of you disappears. Slowly, without noticing, you become invisible to yourself. Carl Jung said that nothing has a stronger influence on the soul than the unlived life. The life you abandon every time you choose silence over truth, comfort over courage, approval over authenticity. You don't lose your soul in one big dramatic moment. You lose it in small compromises, in daily avoidance, in all the things you choose not to feel, not to say, not to be. And what is the cost? A life that looks right but feels wrong. Relationships that seem peaceful but are built on suppression. Success that feels empty. A future that seems meaningless because you were never present in your own becoming. You spent so long protecting the peace around you that you forgot to protect the peace within you. So ask yourself this question. What are you sacrificing to keep the peace? What truth have you buried beneath smiles? What part of you is screaming under the silence you maintain? This is not an accusation. It is an invitation to stop performing and start listening. To see that real peace is not the absence of conflict, but the presence of truth. To realize that protecting others from your truth is not kindness when it comes at the cost of abandoning yourself. In the next chapter, we will explore the truth that most people are afraid to face. That the greatest source of suffering is not the world outside. It is the war we wage within. And sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the part of ourselves we refuse to meet. You believe you are tired because life is too demanding, because the world is too chaotic, because people are too careless with your heart. But what if none of that is the real cause? What if your exhaustion comes not from what is happening around you, but from what is happening inside? There is a quiet war unfolding within you, a war not of loud battles, but of slow erosion. The erosion of your truth, masked by the roles you've been forced to play. You wake up each day and put on a face the world finds acceptable. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile when you feel like screaming. You push forward even when your soul pleads for rest. This war exists in the hesitation before you speak, in the subtle guilt after you assert yourself, in the emptiness after you've pleased everyone but yourself. You want to be loved, so you hide your anger. You want to be accepted, so you silence your pain. You want to be respected, so you present perfection. And in doing so, you declare war on your own humanity. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious holds every truth you bury: your repressed desires, your swallowed grief, your silenced voice. And over time, these truths become shadows that walk beside you. They pull the strings when you sabotage your success. They whisper doubt when you are close to joy. They make you tired, not physically, but spiritually. The weight is not from doing too much. It's from carrying too many versions of yourself. The one your parents expected, the one society applauds, the one that keeps the peace at all costs. Each layer adds distance from who you really are, and the soul, even in silence, remembers. It remembers the cost of fitting in. It mourns the betrayal of your own voice, and it starts to protest through fatigue, through burnout, through a deep, unexplainable ache. Not because you are weak, but because you've spent too long being someone you're not. Healing does not mean winning the war. It means ending it. It means making peace with your contradictions, letting the masks fall, listening when your body says, stop, speaking when your soul says enough. True strength is not how long you endure the war. It is how deeply you're willing to live in truth. In the next chapter, we will meet the part of you that has been buried the longest. Your voice. Not the voice shaped by fear or duty, but the one that has waited in the silence, ready to return. There was a time you spoke freely, a time when your words were not filtered through fear or polished to be acceptable. But slowly the world taught you to hold back. Maybe it was a parent who shamed your curiosity, a teacher who mocked your passion, a friend who didn't understand your feelings. Little by little, you learned that speaking your truth came with a price. And so you stopped. You became quiet on the outside, and eventually on the inside too. Your voice is not just what you say. It is how you show up in the world. It is in the boundaries you set, the passions you follow, the truths you dare to tell. When that voice is silenced, something else takes its place. The voice of fear, the voice of other people's expectations, the voice that says, stay small, stay safe, stay silent. You begin to live by scripts that are not your own. You say yes to avoid conflict, no to avoid vulnerability, nothing at all to avoid rejection. And over time, your own voice becomes foreign to you. This is not just a social issue. It is spiritual. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But how can you become anything if your voice has no room to speak? Every time you choose comfort over truth, you bury your voice a little deeper. And yet, it never disappears. It waits. It waits in your anger, in your longing, in your unexplained sadness. It shows up in the dreams you ignore, the projects you abandon, the people you envy for doing what you are too afraid to try. The voice does not die. It goes underground. And from there it tries to remind you of who you are. But it does so quietly, hoping one day you will listen again. To reclaim your voice is to reclaim your life. It is not about shouting louder than others. It is about being honest with yourself, about saying what you mean, about expressing what you need. It is a process of remembering that your truth matters, even if it is messy, even if it shakes things up, even if not everyone claps. Because when your voice rises again, so does your power. And so does your peace. In the next chapter, we will face the fear that has kept your voice silent, the fear of not being loved if you show who you really are. You have been told that success is everything, that if you achieve enough, accumulate enough, become enough, then finally, you will be at peace. You chase progress like a phantom, always just beyond your grasp. But no one told you that you could reach everything and still feel nothing. Modern life sells a dream of endless growth, but growth without direction is chaos. Growth without awareness is destruction. You were not born to endlessly improve yourself like a machine. You were born to remember who you are, and that remembrance cannot be measured by milestones or status. The illusion of progress is seductive. It keeps you running. It keeps you hungry. It convinces you that your worth lies in your productivity, your image, your outcomes. But in this race, something essential gets left behind: your presence. Presence is not stillness. It is not withdrawal. It is attention, awareness, a return to the moment as it is, not as it should be. Nietzsche warned of the danger of becoming so focused on a goal that you forget to live. The one who constantly aims for a future ideal ends up resenting the present. And life only happens in the present. This is where the suffering deepens, because when you live in the future, your soul withers in the now. You become a stranger to your body, to your breath, to your own truth. Every action becomes a means to an end, rather than a genuine expression of self. You no longer live, you perform. Carl Jung understood this too. He saw how the obsession with outer achievement creates a shadow of inner neglect. And that shadow grows silently. It becomes anxiety, burnout, disconnection. You are praised for your productivity, but inside you are starving for meaning. You were taught to fix yourself by doing more. But what if doing more is the very thing pulling you further from yourself? What if the healing begins not by striving, but by stopping? You do not need to become someone else to be worthy. You do not need to achieve more to be whole. Your healing begins the moment you dare to stop chasing and start listening. Listen to the part of you that is tired, the part that is quietly begging you to slow down, the part that longs not for success, but for depth, that craves not approval, but truth. Because when you return to presence, you begin to feel again. You begin to remember what truly matters, and only then can progress become meaningful, not as a goal, but as a reflection of alignment. In the next chapter, we will step into this deeper understanding, where life is not a ladder to climb, but a field to inhabit, a place where you are no longer a project to fix, but a mystery to live. After all the seeking, after the questions and the silence, after the shadows and the broken mirrors, what is left? There comes a moment when the noise fades and something quieter rises from within, a voice you almost forgot, one that says, "You were never lost, only distant." This is not the end. This is the return to something you were born with, something the world tried to train out of you, something no achievement could replace. The return to wholeness is not about becoming better. It is about becoming real. Wholeness is not perfection. It is not a polished version of yourself that never feels pain or doubt. It is not the flawless self you imagine waiting for you at the end of some spiritual path. Wholeness is the moment you accept all that you are, without denial and without shame. Carl Jung called this individuation. Not the creation of a new self, but the integration of all the selves you tried to leave behind. Your fear, your longing, your grief, your hunger, your light, your shadow. You do not need to cut anything away, you need to weave it together. This process is not glamorous, it is raw, sometimes lonely, but it is deeply honest, and honesty is where freedom lives. You stop needing the world to validate your worth. You stop searching for healing outside of yourself. You begin to see that every wound carried wisdom, that every collapse was a doorway, that the pieces you thought made you broken were never broken at all, only waiting for your embrace. This is the most radical act of self-respect, to meet yourself where you are, to look in the mirror and not flinch, to say, yes, this is me, and I choose to stay. No more masks, no more chasing, just presence, just truth. This is where the journey ends and begins, because now you know. You are not a puzzle to solve. You are a presence to embody. You are not a problem to fix. You are a life to feel. And you are not your past. You are not your pain. You are the one who has walked through it and still stands. You were never meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole. And the moment you stop abandoning yourself, that is the moment your real life begins. So breathe, gently, fully. You are home now.